Hi, so I think we're live. I want to welcome you to this Facebook Live event. Bonnie and I are really happy to be presenting together and to discuss the issue affecting, immigrants and many community members, primarily in New Jersey and New York area. So that's really the issue of incarceration. So I have the privilege to co-present with my colleague, Bonnie Kerness, who has been working on prison conditions and, abolishing the use of prison in the US for many years. And I have also, work on immigration detention and anti-immigrant immigration detention work for about 15 years. So we'll start by just introducing ourselves and then tell you a little bit about, who we are and where we work, where we're based. And then we'll go and really share with everyone who's on live right now, Facebook Live, the campaigns that we're currently working on. And then perhaps, we can also just highlight the actions that anybody who's interested in joining us in these campaigns, the actions that you can take to support our work and support the people who have been through the terrible experience of, being incarcerated. Okay, so I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Chia-Chia Wang. I am the Organizing and Advocacy Director for American Friends Service Committee's Immigrant Rights Program, and we're based in Newark, New Jersey.
And my name is Bonnie Kerness, and I'm Program Director of the American Friends Service Committee Prison Watch Program in Newark, New Jersey. Before we get into the issues, I just want to express gratitude for Chia-Chia, Serge Demofak, the Prison Watch staff and the immigrant rights staff have had the good fortune for many years of working on issues together, of recognizing the similarity of the issues of that immigrants go through and that very often people of color go through in the United States in terms of imprisonment. We've worked on, we're aware that family separation issues are similar. The costs of telephone issues are similar. I had the experience of working with Serge for 4 years on a solitary confinement bill, which limited the use of solitary in state prisons and county facilities, which impact on immigrants. And it was a successful bill. It took us a long time. It took us 2 administrations. But the use of solitary confinement in New Jersey is now limited. We've also been able to expand our working together and how we view the issues as compatible issues for us to work on to outside coalitions. So that there is at least one coalition that has formed, that has advocates from juvenile justice, advocates from criminal legal system, and advocates from immigrant rights on it. Chia-Chia, you want to talk a little bit about what has happened with the immigrant community in terms of, this is centered on COVID. So I mean, I'll keep talking. We've been, although it's 2 different ends of the imprisonment system, we've been very active in terms of what has happened and what is happening to families and people inside during this awful experience that we're all going through. Chia-Chia.
Yeah, I will continue. Sorry, there's siren in the background. Yeah, I do want to mention one thing, and that I keep talking about it as a success, between Healing Justice or Prison Watch Program and the Immigrant Rights Program, our collaboration, which is really the limiting the phone, capping the phone rates, prison phone rates bill that was passed and then signed into law by Republican Governor Christie in New Jersey, and that that a lot of work that we do is, or all of the work we do really is nonpartisan and really to just find the humanity, in people, including policymakers and allies, and then, impacted community, of course. So just want to really quickly mention about, the current campaigns. Some of those, really stem from the urgency, facing immigrant detainees during the pandemic. And we just launched hashtag Free EDC Elizabeth Detention Center, which is really demand, all immigrant detainees that are currently detained at Elizabeth Detention Center, which is the only privately run immigration detention center in the state of New Jersey, everyone to be released. And that in the meantime, we hope to build, really power and awareness about, the human impact of immigration detention across the board. We are working in collaboration with AFSC's National Freedom All campaign, really to be part of the movement to really, for us to, as a community, and urge the policymakers and everyone to look at a different system, right? To really drastically change the system that's really oppressing and, hurting communities across the country. And then, for us, immigration detention and also the use of prison and jails is really a way to silence, communities that have already been hurt by a lot of the injustices, that we see. Yeah, so we have the, Free EDC campaign. We also continue to, work with Bonnie and her program to monitor, the solitary confinement, I guess, bill, and make sure that, it's being implemented, or it will be implemented, justly and fairly and, fully, and to benefit everyone who is currently incarcerated. And so I think there's a bill that, that's really, really worth talking about and celebrating. And I will turn it over to Bonnie to talk about, which is Governor Murphy is about to sign into law. This bill called it's a mouthful. Bonnie, maybe you can say the full name of the bill.
I think it's the Public Health Emergency Act.
Okay.
And while we understand that legislation does not produce social change, we continue to work on legislation. I think Chia-Chia's point about the solitary confinement bill being passed and still needing monitoring is huge. Once legislation passes, very often departments of corrections and people in authority ignore them. Right now, we've been working on a bill which has passed the House. It has passed the Assembly. It lets people in state prisons and halfway houses, which are also privately owned in New Jersey, out on November 4th. About 2,000 people will be released from these facilities. The bill was very, very difficult to get through the legislature. It was blocked the first time by reentry services people. Again, private, largely white owned, who did not want 2,000 people coming out without them getting additional funding to work with folks coming out, on the assumption, which to me is a bit of a racist assumption, that they are all coming out homeless, unsupported, and that has not been AFSC's experience. Very many of them come home and they come home to families. The bill will allow people out November 4th. The governor has not yet signed it. He will sign it October 19th, he says, because he does not want to sign it until the Department of Motor Vehicles is poised to issue state ID licenses to every single person coming out. So it's been a challenge to get it through, and we will be monitoring it very, very closely. New Jersey has in its prisons, and I think immigration facilities, the highest rate of COVID in the country. So this was our sense of urgency and the rapid formation of a coalition that pushed very hard legislatively, that became part of the Free the Mall campaign. We had caravans going to the State House. I mean, we did actions in front of the Elizabeth Detention Facility. It's been a very active campaign that has been pulled together by advocates very quickly. Chia-Chia? Chia-Chia, you're on mute.
Sorry, there was another ambulance. Can you hear me, right? Great. So one thing I forgot to mention. Thank you, Bonnie, for that intro. I think it's really worth.
Can I just add one thing I forgot?
Yes,
and that's the ultimate end of the Free the Mall campaign. I mean, this is an immediate need, an urgent need. The ultimate end is abolition.
Right. Absolutely. It's interesting that today's article that said Murphy will be signing this bill into law on October 19th, and then making the law effective as early as November, or we'll start releasing people the day after the election. I actually thought that it's probably really meaningful actually to have that day as a day for people to be released.
Some of the prisoners felt that way also. The people,
because no matter what happened, the impact of jail will remain the same, right? Whoever is the president, So I do want to go back a little bit and just to also share with you a good news about the New Jersey immigration detention sort of advocacy work, which is we used 3 years ago, and then we also featured one of our managing attorneys on Facebook Live a couple of weeks ago. Lauren Major talked about universal representation program or project. So from last year, the governor of New Jersey or the state of New Jersey started giving or providing funding at $3.1 million to so that immigrant detainees can have legal representation, and that only provided relief or legal representation for about 1/5 of the detained population. And then this year, and we just a few weeks ago, the state approved double the amount of what we received last year. And given the fiscal difficulty that all states are facing right now, we thought that it's really a big victory, and that there is a recognition that the importance of getting people out of incarceration space or prisons and jails and detention center is really important. It's about saving lives. And so I think that, with that sort of victory and momentum, I think we can build more. Seeing more bills passed, and then seeing more people being released from those spaces. So I want to share that.
And one of the interesting things about this bill that passed the Public Health Emergency Act is that it stands no matter what the public health emergency is. So it's a bill that has a life to it beyond COVID. Are we ready for questions?
Yeah, I think we should. We have 5 minutes, and I think our timing is perfect. So in the audience, if you're listening or watching, you can put your question in the chat box, and then we'll try to answer them.
When you mentioned the prisoners being allowed out, people from state prisons being allowed out November 4th, New Jersey also passed the Voting Rights Act so that formerly imprisoned people are allowed to vote. And I heard that date, irritated very many former prisoners because they felt it should be prior to the election that these folks could be let out.
I see in the comment everybody was introducing themselves, and I'm really happy to see, we really have everyone.
I don't see anything.
People from all over the world, from Italy, from Missouri, from Colorado, from Maine, from New Jersey, Indiana, from Philly, Iowa.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and our staff who is away, I see from Keene Valley, New York.
Awesome. Hi, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
In these times where we're so deprived of face-to-face other than Zooms, it's just good to feel you all. If you don't have any questions, what's doing with COVID in immigrant communities and or prisoner communities? John wants to know what personally motivates you. You want to answer that, Chia-Chia?
I'm sorry.
John Krieg wants to know what personally motivates you.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
For me, it was for me, it was, I think I was 13 years old when Emmett Till was murdered. And that profoundly changed who I was. That's my motivation.
Well, mine's pretty different. I did not have any kind of personal, I guess, experience. And that, I was born and raised in a different country, a very different system. And I certainly learned so much, going to school and then, working for a few nonprofits, organizations, and seeing, how community of color being treated and how children, from community of color are, really born into poverty and then, not having equal access to a lot of things. And I think altogether, that kind of, surprised me along the way and how, I was privileged to be, raised the way, to be who I am and to have all the things in my life that I didn't have to worry about. But I also feel like, the I guess, twisted system, or the extent the capitalism plays out or can function in this country really shocked me, and I think it's continuing to shock me to this day. In that I don't. So I think that engage in this type of work will I think it's meaningful for me, and that's or taught or raised.
So there's another question about how the work ties into being done on the border. And for me, when I speak publicly, and we do a lot of public speaking, I will talk about law enforcement, which includes Border Patrol. When I talk about young Africans being shot in the streets, I also talk about a boy called Jose Elena Rodriguez, who lived in Nogales, Mexico, was standing in front of his house and shot by Border Patrol. So with my background and my work, law enforcement is law enforcement, and we have to look at all of it. Family separation is family separation, and we have to look at all of it. So while I'm not meshed in those issues, I feel them in my gut.
Yeah, I completely agree with, and I thank Bonnie for sharing that experience. Um, I don't think I need to say more about that. So I think our time is up, and we do want people to stay in touch. You can message us on Facebook or find our location, and there's always contact information on the right side of the website. And that you'll find our contact information. I want to thank everyone for participating, for listening, a little bit about the work that we do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chia-Chia.
Bye, Bonnie.